Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well today. This time we're going to be talking about Dune Imperium. There is no story to this game, which is a little disappointing, especially since the story from the books is right there and they could have done something with that, or they could have incorporated this game into the story in some way, but there's just nothing there. This is a similar complaint that I had to another Dune game that I played. They just didn't bother to create a story for this. Now, this game is still early access, so they might put one in there at some point, but as it stands now, it's really lacking from the narrative side of things. So I wouldn't say that I like the gameplay at all. It seems fairly simple at first. You're just playing cards, gathering certain resources, and then engaging in conflicts. But there's a lot that you need to remember, and the game tries to help you out, but I just found the whole user interface for this game to be overly complex and very cluttered. It does look a little bit like the board game, but that might not have been the best idea for something like this. Just because of all the crap that's going on while you're playing this and you're trying to figure out where your opponents have moved to, where your opponents have done things, what's going on, what you need to do. There's just so much crap on the screen that you get lost and you might not really know what the hell is happening. And it can be incredibly confusing for like a new player to this. While I'm glad that there is a tutorial with this game, because without it I would have no idea what's going on, it doesn't help as much as you might think. It seems to set up a story, but then that story just gets thrown out the window because it's not in any of the stages for the rest of the game. So after going through the tutorial and getting kind of a rough idea of what I was supposed to do, I realized I didn't know how I was supposed to actually win one of these games. Which was kind of a problem because I just went through something that was supposed to teach me what I was supposed to do and what the end goal was, and I didn't know what the end goal was. So I started up a new game, and right off the bat, it tells you, okay, you need to collect 10 victory points. I don't remember those being mentioned at all in the tutorial. Maybe they were, but I might have just, forgotten about them, or they got lost when I was taking notes on this, or trying to figure out what all of the different cards were supposed to do, and what all the interactions between the different spaces on the board were supposed to be. So even after the tutorial, I was pretty confused on some of the things that I was supposed to be doing. And it was really hard to keep track of everything just because of how cluttered the whole playfield gets. So you need to get the 10 victory points. So that's one thing you need to keep track of. You also need to keep track of how much spice that you have, the number of troops that you have, the number of troops that you've deployed, the combat scores of each of the players that you're playing against, the agents that you have left and where your opponents have placed their agents, the amount of water that you have, intrigue cards that you and your opponents have, not to mention the influence that you have with the different factions, because there are 4 neutral factions in this game as well, and also the Solari, which is just the money in the game. There's just a lot of crap to deal with in this. So there are 3 turns that you need to go through. You have your agent turn, that's where you play your cards, and you can do any one of a bunch of different actions, depending on what your card will allow you to do. Then you have the combat phase, where you can do certain, or you can play certain, like, intrigue cards or influence cards that can change the amount of combat points that you have. Each troop that you deploy gives you 2 combat points, and then you can play extra cards to give yourself more, and certain cards in your hand will give you more combat points as well. At the very end, there's the reveal phase, and that's when you tally up all the influence that you have left in your hand, because each card has an influence point that's associated with it, and you use those influence points to gather more cards so that you can go into the next round when you play this. Even saying all that, I'm sorry, because it's a very confusing game to try to explain. Basically, overall, did not like the gameplay very much. It's there, but man, it's confusing. The developers really tried to make this game look good. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, the playfield is just so cluttered with shit, it's really hard to tell what the hell's happening. The players are given visual clues on where to click, what to do with your cards, what cards you're allowed to play, what spaces you're allowed to play those cards on. Everything is color-coded, and they really tried to make all of this make sense. But man, it takes a while for you to figure it out. This is something that the tutorial did a really good job with. The game slowly introduces you to all the features that you're going to need to keep track of, so you're not thrown everything at once in the tutorial. However, it gets very cluttered very quickly, and you can lose track of a lot of the stuff that you're doing. Playing the cards, it just doesn't feel satisfying. You don't get a cutscene or anything, you just get like a flash of light and some numbers on the bottom of the screen that you might not have been paying attention to change, or some numbers on some other part of the screen that your eyes are not drawn to will change. The battles in this are equally anticlimactic as actually playing a card. The only thing that happens is you see a leaderboard and it lets you know whether you came in first, second, or third, or it lets you know if there was a tie. That's pretty much it. It's really kind of boring, to be honest. Like, there was nothing that really got me excited to play this. It was just moving stuff around and hoping that I lucked into winning, which never happened in any of the 10 games that I played for this. The closest I got was getting to 10 points, but then losing because the AI actually knows how to play the game, and it ended up with 11 and ended up beating me. Overall, the graphics don't really help you as much as they could. I could get used to what was happening with more time if I had played this for like a few days before writing everything down. But the way it is now, it's not all that helpful. You do get to see the cards that are played, you get to see the outcomes of all of those, but in some cases you might get confused, just because the game really doesn't help you out as much as it probably could. Okay, let's wrap this up. I don't think that this is a board game that translated very well to a video game. I have played other board games that did translate fairly well into a video game, and they did things to kind of keep the player more interested in what was going on and maybe simplify things for the player. Here, you're just thrown so much stuff. The game tries like hell to teach you what's going on and how to play, but yeah, this is one of those where I would rather be playing it with 3 other people and just learning as I go, because then you can at least ask questions to the people who are playing it with you. They can tell you when you're doing something wrong, and it would just be a more fun environment to play it with other people. I didn't try playing this one online just because I hate playing things like this online, because you never run into somebody who's like willing to work with you, and the game the game does not help you out as much as it wants to. I think this could be fun, but in its current form, no, I don't think it's very much fun at all. This is probably something I'll either end up returning, or if I've played too much of it, I'll just forget that I have it. Anyway, that's going to wrap things up. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.